I've got a bunch of lovely coconuts, diddly. There they are, standing in a row. Bum, bum, bum. Big one, small one, some the size of your head. Oh, Mufasa would never make me do this. Are we live? Is this thing on? How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? Do you guys know what movie that's from? I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I hope you guys are ready to watch me copy and paste for the next 3 hours. Totally kidding. I actually have the charts done. So we'll just get right into it if that's okay with you guys. Would absolutely love it if you guys are watching over on YouTube. Over on X. Head over on the YouTube side and come sub. And then two, make sure you come like the video. Shout out to JC Money Design from the Sports Affiliation. Great guys, great content. Shout out to Jerry Bagshaw. Let's go. Love you, Jerry. My hand still hurts from that handshake, sir. Sleazeball, my mind is a weapon. Fantasy football. Must subscribe. This is my partner in crime. This is my buddy. This is my pal. And I'm looking forward to fucking shit up in Call of Duty with you. But you know what? We might get Kyler Murray because like you're in those Cali servers. He's nearby in Arizona. It's gonna be good, man. I think we're gonna run into him and I'm gonna take a shit on his chest in Call of Duty. He says smash that like. Let's go. I missed the movie line. Oh, I was just singing a song when the stream was starting. All right, guys, you guys ready to rock? Let's get right into it. Let's talk about Thursday night football. Is this big enough for you guys to see? Yeah, it is. And it's color coded. You're welcome. So let's talk about it. Thursday night football is a spectacular game. Both quarterbacks have great advantages across the board. You look at what the Vikings and the Rams are allowed both 6th and 7th, literally tied. They allow 1.67 passing touchdowns per game to opposing quarterbacks. The Vikings allow 26.67 passing completions. With Cooper Kupp being back, Matthew Stafford is in line to absolutely go bonkers and have a great day. That's the most advantageous matchup when it comes to passing completions. Rams, not so much, but I'll tell you why not so much in a sec. And then when we're talking about passing yards, it's the second most advantageous matchup. The Vikings allow 285.33 passing yards, whereas the Rams allow the 12th most advantageous matchup at 227 pass yards per game. Rushing yards not applicable in this matchup, I believe. So here's why we're not really worried about, passing completions or passing yards against the Rams, is because the Rams' run defense is absolutely atrocious. It's the 7th most advantageous matchup when it comes to rushing touchdowns. So that means Aaron Jones is due for a rushing touchdown or Ty Chandler. My money's on Aaron Jones. It's the 5th most advantageous matchup when it comes to rushing yards, 121 yards. It is the 22nd most advantageous, so I want to say least advantageous when it comes to receptions. Now, the rushing yards for Kyren Williams, not very advantageous. The Vikings allow 72 yards. Rushing touchdowns, not very advantageous. 0.5 rushing touchdowns. But here's where it becomes advantageous for Kyren Williams, and it pairs in with what Matthew Stafford does. It's the passing completions and the receptions at the running back position. The Minnesota Vikings allow the 8th most receptions to opposing running backs. That's 5 receptions per game. But only the 11th most when it comes to receiving yards. So, yeah, Kyren Williams should be involved because, he has to be, but more so in the receiving game than the ground game. Holy shit, chat is popping. People want to watch me? What? NFL Day is hoping to learn something here. Well, I shared you on the chart, sir. Sup Disco, my guy, what's going on, Andre? Does Matt Stafford fly back with Minnesota? Dan, go to the hospital. Go to the hospital, Dan. Feel better. What's good, Disco? Besides my 13-1 Scott Fishbowl team that is in the playoffs and top 50 overall. You're him, buddy. You're him. What's up, Mrs. Disco? Says Sleazeball. Andre says Sleazeball. Andrew, what's good, my guy? All right, let's get back to the matchups. This is a great matchup for wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Cooper Kupp. It doesn't look like Puka Nacua is going to be back, so maybe Tutu Atwell, maybe Demarcus Robinson. We'll see. But we'll talk about receiving touchdowns. Both teams give up the same amount of receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers at 1.17. Both top 10 advantages here. If we're talking about receptions, the Rams actually are not a very advantageous matchup for receptions because once again they're so bad on the ground. Aaron Jones is screaming top 10 upside this week. It's such a tremendous matchup for him. Whereas the Vikings, they actually allow the second most receptions to wide receivers. So welcome back, Cooper Cupper. This is PPR fucking gold, baby. The Vikings allow 17 receptions to opposing wide receivers. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown pop off, and everybody else who's gone against him has absolutely popped off. And then receiving yards, they allow the second most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. Not very great against the Rams, but it's not because the Rams defense is special and they're good. It's simply because game script has shown that, you can run on those guys. Justin Jefferson's still going to get his. So, don't read too much into the numbers. It's just how the game script breaks down. Rams get ran on. Teams don't have to pass the ball a heck of a lot. When they do, they hit them for chunks. Touchdown. Very, very, very simple. Because, once again, the passing touchdowns, exact same, right? Receiving touchdowns, exact same. But the only numbers that are different is the game script. So, Justin Jefferson will still get his. I like him for an anytime touchdown. I also like Aaron Jones for an anytime touchdown. Let's talk about tight ends. Now, Colby Parkinson, he's had a lot of advantageous matchups, and he just hasn't taken advantage of it. Really sucks. I hope Tyler Higbee comes back this year. Speaking of coming back, TJ Hawkinson should be back, and he has a plus matchup. Now, obviously, it's going to be a very, very slow ramp up. At what capacity do we see him? I'm thinking maybe 30% of the snaps, give or take. But the Rams allow the sixth most advantageous matchup on the week for receiving touchdowns at 0.5 receiving touchdowns. Vikings allow the 10th most advantageous matchup on the week at 0.33 touchdowns. Rams allow the 10th most advantageous matchup when it comes to receptions. And the Rams allow the third most advantageous when it comes to receiving yards. They allow 5.5 receptions, and they allow 67.83 receiving yards. All in all, Hawkinson, he has a good matchup, but so does Munt. All in all, Cooper Kupp has a great matchup, but so does, Demarcus Robinson, so does Tutu Atwell. And, it's going to be tough sledding for Kyron Williams, especially with the passing volume that Matthew Stafford's going to have to get involved with. But I do anticipate he's going to break a long one, and I do anticipate that he'll find himself in the end zone. Once again, he's an outlier. He's one of those guys who's just really, really special. It's just a weird matchup, and just the game script is very ugly for Kyron Williams. But Sean McVay is a genius, and he'll find a way to get him involved. All right. Weekly rankings video done in one day. So gassed here for the show. Need a blunt. Enjoy, sir. Enjoy. What's good, Sleaze, brother? Just finished. Nice, man. Hey, Sleaze, says the wife. All right, folks, if you guys are watching on X, come on over to YouTube. It really does help the channel grow. Please smash the subscription. It really does go a long way. And yeah, man, let's go to the next game. Arizona Cardinals versus Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa should be back. And it's not a bad matchup for him to come back against a pretty crappy Arizona Cardinals defense, let's be honest. So across the board, it's not really advantageous for passing touchdowns for either team. It's the least advantageous matchup on the week, actually, for Kyler Murray. It's the least advantageous week. You could tell I've been up since 4 a.m. It's the least advantageous matchup on the week when it comes to passing completions for Kyler Murray as well. It's the 7th most advantageous matchup for passing yards for Tua. The Cardinals allow 247.29 passing yards per game. And then rushing yards, it's not very advantageous against the Dolphins either for Kyler Murray, but once again, he's an outlier. Let's talk about rushing. Cardinals allow 0.71 rush touchdowns per game, whereas the Dolphins allow 1.5 rushing touchdowns per game. Fire up James Conner fucking everywhere. This is a James Conner week. Both teams are top 10 advantageous matchups when it comes to rushing yards, literally a yard difference. Can you guys see this? Should I zoom in a bit? I'll zoom in. All right. Is that better? Both teams allow a heck of a lot of rushing yards. 114 is what the Cards allow on a weekly basis. 113 is what the Dolphins allow. Dolphins is a bad team to pass the ball on. Both the least advantageous matchup when it comes to receptions and receiving yards. So if there's a James Conner under receiving, take it. Definitely take it. And it's a bad situation against the Cardinals in terms of their passing defense as well against opposing running backs and the receiving aspect, but that's because they give up significant chunk plays to the wide receiver position. Fire up Tyreek Hill, guys. Tyreek Hill is in line for a great week. The Cardinals allow the 10th most advantageous matchup for opposing wide receivers. They allow 1.14 receiving touchdowns, whereas the Dolphins are the second least advantageous matchup at 0.33 touchdowns per game. When it comes to receptions, the Cardinals are the 8th most advantageous matchup at 12.71 receptions per game to opposing wide receivers. Dolphins, the third worst matchup. When it comes to receiving yards, Cardinals are the 7th most advantageous matchup at 161.57. The Dolphins are the third worst at 115. Let's look at the tight ends. It's a decent matchup for Jonnu Smith, let's be honest. It's not a good matchup for Trey McBride, but Trey McBride's an outlier. He can absolutely smash any team. Doesn't really matter who. Where it's advantageous for Jonnu Smith really is the receiving yards. The Cardinals allow 54.43 receiving yards to opposing tight ends. Other than that, like this matchup is screaming Trey McBride. It's screaming Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and screaming James Conner. I think Devon Achane can get involved here too. I think with Tua coming back, teams are going to have to play them more honestly. And by more honestly, they can't put 7 in the box and stuff the run anymore against the shitty O-line. They have to go 6 in the box. They have to play the pass, and they have to play honest defense. And that's going to free up Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. I really like both running backs in this matchup. But I'm definitely not starting Kyler Murray. And, the 1 week you should probably, and I hate saying this, the 1 week you should probably sit Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the week he's going to shit on everybody because that's just how it works, man. All right. Bing King, what's up, buddy? He says, sup, fellas and ladies. What's up, buddy? Hello, my guy. Love seeing your face. Love seeing yours too, man. Love you, Hot Take City. One of the most genuine, real, and supportive people on Twitter and on the planet. Love you, buddy. Sup, Disco. What's up, Bing King? Ready for it? My crazy call. Connor has an absolute smash matchup and is going to fail Tua and Finns, roll him up and spit him out. Connor usage falls behind because of game script. Agree to disagree. Bink, what's Gucci? Man, last week was definitely one of my worst weeks in DFS. I lost. Man, it was one of my worst weeks DFS. And it was one of my worst weeks in the drafters pick'ems. I had a decent week in the sports books, but yeah, it was just rough. It was just really, really rough. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong. But I mean, like, Dan, NFL DFS picks at best, like 25% of your weeks are going to go like this, no matter what the research says. It's just going to be some weird days, and we're here for it. The strategy is not going to change. The approach is not going to change. I'm still him. I am still him. My worst week of calls ever, Bink. Yeah, it was bad, man. It was bad for all of us. Sup, Sleaze. Thanks for those words, brother. Just love your content. Well, man, you should love my friendship. I'm a pretty good friend. All right, let's look at the next matchup. Let me know if you guys like this view better. Let's try this one. All right. Are you guys even reading along? Are you guys catching up? Shout out to everybody who's tuning in. If you're supporting and watching on X, thank you. It means a heck of a lot. But come over on YouTube. Don't be a jackass. All right, let's talk about Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. It's a pretty decent matchup for Kirk Cousins. Obviously, it was a very disappointing week against Seattle, but this should be a bounce back matchup. I think game script, it's up in the air right now because how Tampa Bay is going to look without Mike Evans, who's going to be out until at least after their bye week, and Chris Godwin, who's going to be out indefinitely, well into next year potentially. Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, fuck, man, it's tough sledding there. It really is a tough situation for that receiving core. With that being said, that the advantages are not very advantageous. So we'll talk about, clear outliers and where we see utilization. Obviously, with the injuries there, Rashad White's value increases exponentially. So does Cade Otton, but I don't love Cade Otton in his matchup this week. I'll tell you guys why. So yeah, let's talk about the matchups. Falcons allow 1.43 passing touchdowns. This is 12th most advantageous. When I say, by the way, guys, when I say most advantageous, it means like this is like the way we rank it, like 32 is really bad, not very advantageous. 1 is most advantageous. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Hot Take still won't join my show. Uh-oh. I've been making so many bad QB decisions in DFS. It's crazy. There has almost never been a good cheap QB matchup that worked out this season yet. What's your baby? What? Shout out to Pete Terranova. What's your baby? You're my baby? Still waiting for you to and formal invites, please. Oh, shit. And Disco, I love your friendship. The biggest reason I'm here, brother. Don't ever forget that. God bless you, man. I appreciate you. Bulls said Godwin has outside chance to return late season. Just a dislocated ankle. I mean, as long as like there's no ligamentage, that's done. There's no fractures or anything like that. Yeah, it's plausible. But fuck, it's going to be here's the thing. Tampa Bay is going to have to stay competitive in order for him to come back and compete. Still needs faster than usual recovery to make it back. Yeah, I mean, like shit, couple injections will help. I knew a lot of wide receivers were injured this year, but wasn't woke about it last week for what it's worth. Don't overreact to wide receiver rankings. For sure. Okay, let's get back into it. Let's look at quarterback completions. Falcons allow 22.43 completions. Buccaneers allow 25. Both top 10 advantages, more advantageous for Kirk Cousins and company. Buccaneers allow the fourth most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks at 271.14. That's the fourth most advantageous, not very advantageous for Baker Mayfield, and it's still less advantageous than usual. Where it is advantageous for Baker Mayfield is the Falcons allow the second most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks. That's definitely something to consider and something to look into. Baker Mayfield rushing yards is usually like relatively low, and he's going to be running for his life. So, yeah, not a great matchup for either running back when it comes to rushing touchdown upside or when it comes to rushing yards. Obviously, you have to take some of the volume and work that would have gone to, both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and you have to apply these running backs. The cool thing about these running backs is two of them are really good receivers, and one of them is a bruiser. I will not be shocked if we see all three running backs on the field a lot of the time together. I mean, if you're a good offensive coordinator and those are your three fucking best players, plus McMillan, there's a way you can make it work, man. And Rachaad White looked spectacular last night. Here's where it is advantageous for both running backs. It's advantageous where in the receptions, the Falcons allow the 11th most receptions to opposing running backs at 5.86. The Buccaneers allow the third most advantageous matchup at 7.57. But the Falcons don't allow almost any receiving yards. It's the third least advantageous when it comes to receiving yards for running backs, but it's the third most advantageous when it comes to receiving yards for running backs. Fire up Bijan Robinson. Last time these two met, Bijan Robinson hardly did anything in the air. He did most of his work on the ground, but didn't really, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't really find the end zone there either. Highly doubt that for Godwin. Heard. Who's the Bucs receiver we should be targeting off of waivers? I think Jalen McMillan's probably the best one. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Sterling Shepard is like he has been getting a lot of touches. He has been getting a lot of work there. I don't think there's a bad move. I think who has the highest ceiling is McMillan, but I'd still like put some investment in Sterling Shepard because we know what he can do, right? Like, Sterling Shepard is still a phenomenal player. Hot Texas says McMillan is the Bucs wide receiver league winner. Ben King says, Dan, I've been getting the QB right, but paying up to do so. I'm not paying up this week. I had Love last 2 weeks as my most owned, but sure have kept Darnold more. Heard. Ben King, what's up, brother? Says Pete Terranova. Shout out to Pete, man. 2 is expected to have full practice tomorrow. Let's go. No guarding cap that. Money McMillan says Sleazimus Decimus Meridius. Let's go. Hot Take, welcome back. Yes, sir. Welcome back. Hot Take, we missed you. I mean, what I meant, what's up? If I know what you meant. I'm just being stupid. All right, let's talk about the advantages for the receivers, okay? If we're talking about receiving touchdowns, it's actually the fourth most advantageous for the Buccaneers wide receivers. The Falcons defense allows 1.29 receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. 15th, Buccaneers allow 1 receiving touchdown to opposing wide receivers. My money is on Drake London. He's been spectacular. I anticipate he'll continue to do so. Both top 10 advantages. Buccaneers are the fourth most advantageous. Falcons are the 7th most advantageous when it comes to wide receiver receptions. Bucks allow 14 receptions to opposing wide receivers. Falcons allow 13.29 receptions to opposing wide receivers. If we're talking about receiving yards, the Buccaneers are the 6th most advantageous when it comes to wide receiver receiving yards at 162.14. Falcons defense is 137.57. So fire up Drake London, fire up Darnell Mooney. Both of them should splash, if not at least one of them, right? Let's look at the tight end matchups. It's not a great matchup for either one of these tight ends. I mean, the Bucks allow 5 receptions to tight ends, and we just saw what Baltimore did to them. And they allow a heck of a lot of receiving yards. So Kyle Pitts' longest reception is definitely in play, and I wouldn't be shocked if he finds himself in the end zone as well. That's a wrap on that one. Let's talk Baltimore and Cleveland. Let's catch up with the chat if we do that. Before we do that, so I had a high-stakes lineup, only scored 8.5 combined points at wide receiver. Dang. I hope you're doing good, fam. Can't control life. Appreciate you, dog. Thank you. Love you, bud. The ads on here are relentless. Sorry, man. Sorry. That's how Papa makes money. Guys, don't be mad at me that I get paid to talk football. It's a fucking blessing. Support my blessing. I know you support my blessing, and I know you love me, and I love you too, Dan. God bless you, man. What's up, Peter? Says Bing King. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate you, brother. Disco, you going to do DFS or betting for NBA? No, man. I'm all in on the NFL. I used to love NBA DFS. Owner's Box legend in the DFS there. Absolutely love Owner's Box NBA DFS. But the moment I decided I'm going to make content for fantasy football and football only is the moment I said, yeah, I'm done with the NBA betting. I'm done with the NBA DFS. I don't even do NBA fantasy. I stopped playing NBA 2K. Like, shit, man. Shit's weird. Speaking of playing games, who's excited to play Call of Duty with the community? I am. Damn, for first looks on Jags and Bears players, Williams and Lawrence Stacks. Interesting. This is definitely not the week to not pay up for Jordan Love, by the way. We'll get to that game. All right, let's talk about advantageous matchups. If it's DTR, DRT, Dirt, Dirt. If it's him, Dorian, don't. If it's Jameis Winston, fire up every fucking Cleveland Brown out there. It's crazy that every fan who loves the sport knows that Jameis Winston is the key to this team being successful, except for Stefanski. It's crazy how everybody fucking knows it, because the Ravens are the 4th most advantageous matchup when it comes to passing touchdowns. They allow 2 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. Yes, fire up Jameis Winston. They are the 2nd most advantageous when it comes to passing completions at 25.71. They are the most advantageous when it comes to quarterback passing yards at 308.43. And then rushing yards, they don't really allow much. But the Browns allow quite a bit. They're the 11th most advantageous when it comes to quarterback rushing yards at 25.57. So I like Lamar Jackson in this one too. Run a heck of a lot. And with Myles Garrett chasing, you're going to have to, for sure. Tertiary DFS play, Cedric Tillman. Tillum. Who is Cedric Tillum? Thank you later. Okay. I mean, I think everybody likes Cedric Tillman this week. I like NBA once NFL is over. Can't do both sports too much time. Need to 100%. So true about Winston. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And honestly, I couldn't be happier for David Njoku, because it doesn't matter who the fucking quarterback is. Now that Amari Cooper's gone, he's him. And I have a lot of David Njoku exposure. And I just made a trade for him. Right, Dan? I just made a trade for David Njoku. I sold my kids to fucking win, and I won. I had to turn it around. I had to invest in the floor and not the ceiling. All right, let's talk about rushing touchdowns. Very advantageous matchup. Top 10 matchup for Derrick Henry. Like him for an anytime touchdown. It's a decent matchup against the Ravens. I mean, Rachaad White found his spot there. It's not a great matchup for either team when it comes to rushing yards. It's actually the least advantageous matchup for Nick Chubb and company. But it's the 5th most advantageous matchup for Nick Chubb when it comes to receptions against the Baltimore Ravens defense, and that doesn't add up. And it's the 2nd least advantageous matchup for Derrick Henry and Justice Hill when it comes to receptions for running backs at 3.29. It's the 2nd least. The Browns are pretty good there. But when it comes to receiving yards, it's the fourth most advantageous matchup for Nick Chubb. Also doesn't add up. I don't love it. Whereas like it's the 25th most advantageous for receiving yards against the Browns. So Justice Hill's out. I mean, if you flexed him this week and you listened to me, congrats. If you didn't flex him this week or last week, definitely don't flex him this week. This is not a game for him, right? Let's look at wide receivers. This is a great matchup for both Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. It's the most advantageous matchup against the Baltimore Ravens for receiving touchdowns. They allow 1.57 receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers. It's the 11th most advantageous for Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. Great call to Sleazeball. Shout out to Sleazeball. He had Rashad Bateman as a sleeper pick, and he smashed. Great call. Phenomenal call. When it comes to receptions, it's the fifth most advantageous matchup for the Cleveland Browns receivers. They allow 13.86 receptions to opposing wide receivers. Not so much, not very advantageous. The Browns defense is pretty good, so don't love Baltimore's receivers this week. It's the third most advantageous matchup when it comes to receiving yards for the Cleveland Browns receivers. So once again, Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, even Elijah Moore, you can mix them in there. I think they're all playable this week, honestly. And then if you look at the Browns and what they allow big chunk plays, right? If you allow 10 receptions, 146 yards to opposing wide receivers, longest reception certainly in play. And I'm going to keep that mental note because I love my longest reception props. It's one of my favorites. Least favorite, kickers. Fuck them. Receiving touchdowns, both teams have allowed 0 receiving touchdowns to opposing tight ends. When it comes to receptions, the Ravens allow the third most at 6.43. So PPR format, it's a smash matchup for my guy, David Njoku. It's a bad matchup for the inline tight end, who is Mark Andrews. I think if anybody's going to get involved, it's going to be Isaiah Likely in a couple chuck plays. But once again, the Moncton scheme has been absolutely phenomenal, and they've been borderline scheme proof. So yeah, I mean, Andrews is certainly not sittable, but I think likely startable. Receiving yards, the Ravens allow the second most to opposing tight ends, 76.57. Fire up Njoku, guys. Njoku's got top 5, top 3, top 2, tight end 1 upside, but my tight end 1 is in this next game. All right. Are we sitting Deontay this week? I did tell you to sell high. I did tell you to sell high, Mr. Magic. Shout out to you. Love you, buddy. Yeah, I mean, it's the worst matchup. And what makes it even worse is fucking PS2 is back. Patrick Surtain's back. Yeah. NBA, in my opinion, is so hard to watch. Playoffs is the only time to bet, in my opinion. I won 16,500 NBA playoffs. That's incredible. Good for you. Last time I watched an NBA game was when the Raptors won the championship. Then Kawhi retired, and I retired too. Or Kawhi left the Raptors, and I retired too. Ben King says, I've been nailing the QB position in the RB. Stand wide receivers and flex that are killing me. I will say I do like Allen this week if I'm paying up. Do you think the game script is going to be good for Allen this week? I don't know if it's shootout. If DK's out. If DK's out, is it still a shootout? That's my only quandary. I'm still there. Minus 5,500. Jesus shit. Do I drop Wandell for Jennings? Yes. I would personally drop Wandell Robinson. What's your prediction on how full drafters second half best ball gets? Seems like a very slow start to me. I mean, I haven't made a single lineup. I haven't even done any research for it. I haven't done a single lineup for that one. Like the return is, in comparison to the investment, it's not there. It's not there. How much would it cost for you to max out that tournament? It's 150 lineups, right? $10. The ROI is not there. K9 week. Yes, I agree with Disco Wandell for Jennings. I mean, like, you just got to go with a quarterback who's got a better arm, and then like game script until CMC comes back is going to be air heavy, and you know he can break fantasy football. He's shown it. Has anybody outscored him so far this year at the wide receiver position? Has anybody outscored Juan Jennings? I love Juan. Juan. All right, let's talk about the next game, guys. I'm all caught up here. We got 15 people watching on YouTube. Shout out to you, beautiful folks. And we got 64 watching total. My math ain't mathing, so I ain't going to math it. But if you guys are watching on Twitter, one, thank you. Two, please hop on over to the Twitter X. Please hop on over to the YouTube stream. It's Big Draft Energy on YouTube. Takes literally 3 seconds to download the YouTube app. Takes 5 seconds to connect your Gmail to your YouTube account and create a YouTube account. Takes 0 seconds to click the subscribe button and takes 0 seconds to like the video. And that actually helps me a heck of a lot, guys. Once again, this is how I'm making a living. This is how I'm making some muna. So thank you, guys. Someone offers you Mahomes. Deacon, shout out to you, buddy. So someone offers you Mahomes and Kincaid for you to give up Jordan Love, and likely you take that trade. I'm thinking so. So Mahomes and Kincaid for Jordan Love, and absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Kincaid is in a smash situation this week. I don't like it. How much fab should I put into Jennings? I have 90 left. I would say 15 to 25% on him. I would say 15 to 25% on him. All right. Quarterbacks. Let's talk about Green Bay versus Jacksonville Jaguars. I really do like Jordan Love in this game. Why? Because it's the most advantageous matchup when it comes to passing touchdowns. The Jaguars allow 2.29 passing touchdowns, and Jordan Love is very capable of throwing a passing fucking touchdown. Passing completions, Jags allow 25.43 completions to opposing quarterbacks. Third most advantageous. It's the third most advantageous matchup for passing yards for quarterbacks. The Jags allow 285.14, and it's the seventh most advantageous matchup when it comes to rushing yards. So Jordan Love's rushing yards is certainly in play here. But I mean, with his ability to throw the rock, it's absolutely crazy. It's a top 12 matchup for what's his face, Trevor Lawrence, when it comes to passing touchdowns. Top 16 for passing completions, top 15 for passing yards, and not a good one for rushing yards. Packers defense has gotten way better the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, they showed glimpses before that, but they've been way better. Both teams neck and neck. Let's talk running backs. Both teams neck and neck at allowing rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs at 0.71 per game. So every 5 quarters, essentially. Both really bad matchups for rushing yards. The Packers allow the 18th most at 94 yards. Jags allow actually 26th most at 72.57 rush yards per game to opposing running backs. Yeah, it's not super ideal, but it's advantageous. It's the most advantageous matchup on the week for a running back when it comes to receptions and receiving yards. I just don't think yes, Josh Jacobs got his first receiving touchdown ever, but I just don't think this is his game, and this is where he's gonna. Something's got to give here, right? Because Jags allow 57.57 receiving yards to opposing running backs, and they allow 6.71 receptions to running backs. Maybe fire up Emmanuel Wilson, but it's also a top 10 advantageous matchup for Travis Etienne should he play, or Tank Bigsby and Dearness Johnson should he not play. When it comes to receiving yards, and top 13 when it comes to receptions, they allow 4.57. Let's talk wide receivers. Sleazeball, thank you for the 5 gifted, buddy. Appreciate you. Dinner with the wife, you'd be lurking. Smash those likes, y'all. Thanks, buddy. Thank you. If JD doesn't play this week, do I go Darnold or Goff? Goff has a really bad matchup. Darnold has a phenomenal matchup. I mean, that team is an outlier, right? I hate using the word Dan Campbell and company, they travel well and do what they do no matter the matchup, no matter who it is. If he takes it as a dare, if you are good at stopping, one aspect of an offense, Dan Campbell's going to make sure that one aspect of the offense absolutely shits on you that week. He has, I don't know if it's ego, I don't know if it's pride, but I love it. I love him so much. That team, that's the only team offensively that's matchup proof. The only team. So yeah. I mean, Jared Goff at this point, the way he's been lighting up is not a sit, but Tennessee Titans defense is really good. They're really, really good. Thank you. I'm actually debating just stepping away from DFS for a while. Don't do that. Don't do that. Come over to Owner's Box DFS. Come hang out in the Owner's Box streets with us. Change it up. Use promo code DISCO to double your initial deposit $1 for $1 up to $100. Or come over to the Drafters Fantasy DFS streets. Shout out to my guy, the worst sports channel, Jack Lucene. He won first last week in the $3.30 splash. that DFS draft is it's a heck of a lot of fun, man. I did not place top 100. Binking, what side are you playing on and what tourneys do you enter? Says NFL DFS picks. All right. Wide receivers, it's the most advantageous. No, the Packers allow one receiving touchdown to opposing wide receivers per game. The Jags allow 1.29. It's the sixth most advantageous for the Packers. Jaden Reed fucked me last week. I hope he has a bounce back week this week, but I'm not investing. Who am I kidding? I'm definitely investing. Jags allow the third most receptions to opposing wide receivers at 14.14. Packers allow the 25th, so not very advantageous. Jags are the fourth most advantageous for wide receiver receiving yards at 177.14. Once again, BTJ, you can't sit him. I don't care if it's Jair Alexander. The only guy I'm worried about, the only guy I'm concerned about going against BTJ, he already played, and that's Patrick Surtain. Anybody else, I'm 100% like lining him up and ready to rock. I mean, he also didn't really do much against the Bears, for what it's worth. All right, so Tucker Kraft has the second most advantageous matchup when it comes to receiving touchdowns for tight ends. The Jags allow 0.57 receiving touchdowns. It's the 16th most advantageous. The Pack allow 0.29. The Pack allow a lot of receptions to tight ends at 5.57, and the number is relatively close at 4.71. So good matchup for reception for both tight ends. Great matchup for receiving yards for Evan Ingram. I do think he finds the end zone. I have him as my tight end one on the week, but I think both tight ends will finish as a top 5, top 10 tight end easily. And then receiving yards, both teams top 12 advantages here. All right, let's go to the next game. Let's catch up with the chat. Jacob Myersky. Jacob, I shared you on the charts, my friend. Yeah, you have the charts now. Jaden Reed, yeah, him, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud broke my fucking hat. Sam Laporta broke my hat. Kid. Does Keenan have a great matchup? Yeah, he does. He most certainly has a phenomenal matchup. But so does everybody on that team. Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet has a decent matchup. DeAndre Swift has a good matchup. We'll get to that matchup. But yeah, Keenan Allen has a great matchup. But what it comes down to is who's going to play quarterback on the other side to keep it interesting, right? Because if Daniel Jones isn't the starting quarterback, it's going to be a fucking blowout because the Bears defense is really good. BTJ is him. If I die on that hill, so be it. I'm with you. I fucking love BTJ. Let me check my mail. Thanks, brother. Got you, buddy. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next game. Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. This is the what? What the? Okay. I made a little boo-boo. So I'm literally going to copy and paste right now. All right. So Anthony Richardson and company have the second most advantageous matchup when it comes to passing touchdowns. The Texans allow 2.14 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. The Colts allow 1.43, 13th most advantageous, both quarterbacks in line for great games statistically. Can Anthony Richardson take advantage of the matchup? To be determined. I've invested. I've bought low. It's not a great matchup for either quarterback when it comes to passing completions. The Colts do allow 21.43. CJ Stroud is in line to hit that number, but I love Joe Mixon more. I'll tell you why in a sec. Passing yards, Colts allow 236.86 passing yards per game. That's the 8th most advantageous matchup. So once again, CJ Stroud, fire him up. But like Nico Collins really makes that team go based off of what I've seen. 190 yards is what Texans allow. Rushing yards, the Texans allow the 5th most to opposing quarterbacks. This is why I like Anthony Richardson this week. This is why I like him a heck of a lot. His longest rush is free money pretty much every single week he's healthy. And then the Colts, 16th most advantageous. But yeah, man, love A-Rich this week. And I like CJ Stroud a heck of a lot too. So the Colts allow 0.57 touchdowns to opposing running backs. The Texans allow 0.43. Not very advantageous for either running back. Hopefully Jonathan Taylor's back because then he's definitely going to get a touchdown. Rushing yards, the Colts are the 3rd most advantageous matchup, 125.14 rushing yards. Last time Joe Mixon saw these guys, he absolutely ate them up and shot them out. It was absolutely phenomenal. Receiving, not a great matchup for either running back or receiving. Let's go wide receivers. It's a great matchup for the Indianapolis Colts wide receivers. I really like Joshua Downs on this spot. Just when it comes to receiving touchdowns, when it comes to receptions, it's literally the same 10.86 receptions they allow to opposing wide receivers. When it comes to receiving yards, it's literally the exact same 145.86 receiving yards. So pick and choose whichever wide receiver you want to ride with, but I do like Joshua Downs a heck of a lot this week. And it's a great matchup for both tight ends for receiving touchdowns. Dalton Schultz had a great spot last week, didn't really do much with it, but he has a great spot in the top 4 matchup for receptions, top 4 matchup for receiving touchdowns, top 10 matchup for receiving yards. Remember when we were all drafting Jelani Woods? Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Mamie. What's up, brother? Mashallah, you got 1.5 subscribers? No, I don't. I got 1.25. But we're working. We're working on it. 1.25. Yeah, man, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're trying to get there, buddy. We're trying to get there. Thank you for popping by. Shout out to Hoos Goat. Hoos, you must be having a good season because I don't see any Hoos conundrums. Dan, I play on FanDuel mostly the Millie Maker. Last week they had a contest with 10K field, 250 entry, and I got buried. Yeah, last week was a weird one, man. Mixon has looked great. I should be more biased. Haven't played him all year. This week I play him. He'll probably score. Yeah, he'll be great. Man meat shriveled. Yeah, facts, Jerry. Could this be Mason's last? No, I mean, technically Mason's last week is week 10 because that's where Christian McCaffrey is expecting to come back. But I'm also anticipating a slower ramp up for CMC, and he's still worth a hold. So, I mean, if you can sell him high, do so. But I don't know what you're going to get in return because everybody's caught on. Right. All right. Let's look at the next game. We got the New York Jets versus the New England Patriots. Let's just be honest. Breece Hall has a great matchup this week. I would play Breece Hall. If you're in a deep league, you can also play Braylon Allen this week. Aaron Rodgers should be all right. Drake May, I worry for him because the Jets don't give up a heck of a lot to opposing quarterbacks, especially, teams with really, really bad offensive lines. Yeah, I mean, shit, it's rough. I will say Ramondre, he could get involved in the receiving game, but I once again, man, it's tough. It's tough sledding. If we're talking about the second worst matchup for receiving yards for the Jets, the Patriots wide receivers, second worst matchup for receptions. It's just bad deal, man. Garrett Wilson, obviously startable. You wouldn't not start him. Devontae Adams, obviously startable. Do I have them projected as top 10 wide receivers? No. But Breece Hall is my RB1 on the week, and I'm sticking to it. And once again, not very advantageous for either tight end here either. So it's Breece Hall, Jets wide receivers. That's it. Drake May is a must-sit for me this week as well. And Braylon Allen is a deep sleeper. I honestly think he finds himself in the end zone. All right, let's talk about my favorite game ever. This is my favorite NFL game on paper ever. Let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Two prolific offenses and two really, really, really bad defenses. It's I have a lot of exposure to both teams in basketball, and I'm here for it, man. I am so excited for this matchup. I can't wait. So many great RB calls this week. Maybe there are some really good ones. Man, I've been getting my butt kicked last week and the week before that. I'm 3-4 right now. I actually need your help this week. Wasn't sure to ask you on this platform. Ask me here always, man. If I'm live, you can ask me anywhere, but please ask me here. It makes for good content. Next year's draft is going to be all RBs early. Jamar Chase is him. And I always said, Jamar Chase, no matter what, he was my wide receiver one. He was my player one. I took him ahead of everybody. And we're reaping the rewards. Shout out to Jamar Chase. All right, Philadelphia Eagles versus Cincinnati Bengals. All right, it's the 8th most advantageous matchup for passing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. It's the 17th most advantageous matchup for Joe Burrow, but I think Joe Burrow doesn't give a shit. He's going to pass, and he's going to continue to pass. Passing completions, great matchup for Jalen Hurts. But here's where I like Jalen Hurts as potentially QB1 this week, right? This is the most advantageous matchup on the ground for rushing quarterbacks. Can Jalen Hurts run the ball? You bet your fucking ass he can. So I love Jalen Hurts in this spot. I really do. I like the fact that the Bengals allow the sixth most rushing touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, top 5, easily top 2. Him and Brees, neck and neck. Rushing yards, both middle of the pack, give up, close to 95 to 100 each. Receptions, not very advantageous for either team, but I do like longest reception for Chase Brown because the Eagles allow 4.33 receptions, but 37.33 yards. Translation, longest reception is definitely there, like a screen or like a little dunk. Wide receivers, it's the 8th most advantageous matchup for Jamar Chase and friends. When it comes to receiving touchdowns, the Eagles allow 1.17 receiving touchdowns. It's not very advantageous for Eagles, but A.J. Brown is him. God, I love A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase. This makes me so excited. I'm wet. What? It's a top 14 matchup or top 13 matchup for receptions for both teams. More advantageous for Devonta Smith and co. Shout out to Zamir White, by the way. He outscored Devonta Smith last week. Eagles allow 11.67 receptions, so Jamar Chase and co. should be fine. Receiving yards, both teams give up just below 150 to wide receivers. It's the most advantageous matchup when it comes to receiving touchdowns for Dallas Goedert, should he be healthy. Grant Caltera also could be in a good spot, but the way the Eagles work, I don't think they're going to utilize the tight end a heck of a lot, especially when everybody's healthy. Receptions, 5th most advantageous. Receiving yards, 6th most advantageous. It's a great matchup for Dallas Goedert if he's healthy. It's a horrible matchup across the board for Gesicki and Eric Hall. Let's look at Tennessee Titans versus the Detroit Lions. This is a weird game where all logic and all stats go out the door. Detroit is a phenomenal offense. Their defense has given up chunk plays. Tennessee has a phenomenal defense. Their offense has given up chunk plays. And it's like, I'm expecting the opposite to happen, right? Because if we're looking here, it's the most advantageous matchup for wide receivers against the Detroit Lions. We saw Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison both have their way, and even Jalen Naylor last week. It's the most advantageous matchup for wide receivers when it comes to receiving yards. Once again, it's Will Levis. He's at the helm. He's the starter there. It's the 4th most advantageous for completions, 5th most advantageous for passing yards, and the 8th most advantageous for rushing yards. I do like Will Levis's rushing yards here, but like across the board, it's saying it's a terrible matchup for Goff. It's a terrible matchup for David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, who I did say was the one to play last week. Shout out to me, patting myself on the back. It's a terrible matchup for Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. What a bum. Fire up Sam Laporta. It's a terrible matchup for Sam Laporta. It's saying all these things, but like the opposite's going to happen. The opposite's going to happen. I'm done investing as a tertiary player on the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to need like 4 weeks of consistency in order to believe it. But yeah, man. Devonta Smith will go from 0.2 points to 2 points this week. Probably I have him as a top 15 wide receiver this week, sir. He's a must start. Eagles, Arrow. Yes, sir. Love Eagles this week. Much love, boys. I'm going to close up shop. Disco, keep up the great work. Love it and love you. Love you too, buddy. All right. I will ask it right now. What the heck? Give me a second to pull up my line in my home league. I got you, buddy. What about Pollard? I don't like Pollard in this spot. Detroit doesn't give a lot of work to the rushing. If I am going to play anybody from the Tennessee Titans, it is Tony Pollard. And if I was to draft anybody from the Tennessee Titans in best ball and in redraft, it was Tony Pollard. But it's just an ugly situation. Let's get into we're breezing through this, guys. We're going to have a sip of water here. All right, first 4 o'clock game, we got the Buffalo Bills with their newfound weapon, Amari Cooper. I will say this is not a great spot for – it's weird. It's not a great spot for wide receivers, but it is. The most advantageous matchups here are obviously Josh Allen, Geno Smith, but Geno Smith without DK is concerning. I love the matchup for James Cook, especially rushing yards. Seahawks allow 129 rushing yards. They also allow 0.86 rushing touchdowns. So I love James Cook this week. I have him as a top 5 RB. It's the second most advantageous for receptions against the Bills and running backs. So Kenneth Walker has an advantage here. The Bills allowed 6.29 receptions to opposing running backs, and they also are the second most advantageous matchup against RB receiving yards at 54.43. So Kenneth Walker should be in line to pick up the slack there. I don't love any of the wide receivers in this matchup, I'll be honest. I love Dalton Kincaid as a top 5 tight end this week. I also think Noah Fant can be a top 10 tight end this week as well. I'm just breezing through these. All right, Chargers, Saints. The second ugliest game on this slate here. I will say passing yards and passing completions, Saints are very advantageous in both departments. But knowing Harbaugh, knowing that the Saints are terrible against the run because they are the 8th most advantageous when it comes to rushing touchdowns, 6th most advantageous when it comes to rushing yards. The Chargers are just going to pound the rock and they're not going to really throw the ball. It's just going to be bully ball, and I'm here for it. Like, I really am here for it because the Saints suck. They're a trap. As for that, the only player I'm starting this game, literally the only player I'm starting this game, nobody else, including Alvin Kamara, only player I'm starting this game is J.K. Dobbins. Everybody else can sit. 100%. I also think if we're looking at props, the fact that the Chargers give up the 10th most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks, I think Spencer Rattler's rushing yards will be free. All right, let's talk about I'm just breezing through this. Is Jackson Smith-Njigba? Yeah, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba should be fine. I think it's still a tough spot for him. The Bills have one of the best secondaries statistically against opposing wide receivers. Yeah. Binking, you're right. Chargers defense. I don't play in any leagues with defense and special teams. That's why you'll never hear me talk about defense and special teams. I don't play in any leagues with kickers. I just don't do it. Should I start Javonte Williams or Kamara this week? Leaning towards Williams because of the matchup for the Broncos. Yeah, 100%. 100%. You don't need my advice there. If a player's, we're about to talk about this game right now. If a player is going against the Carolina Panthers and he's a running back, start him. Like, hey man, I personally hate Jaleel McLaughlin, and shout out to all the Jaleel McLaughlin truthers. You guys are shh. It's enough. Okay, Javante's hip. With that being said, he's startable this week. Audric Estime, I would in a deeper league, I would consider starting him because I think all three will find the fucking end zone, and it's crazy. I actually have I have a little bit of a bet there in a parlay where I have all three running backs scoring an anytime touchdown as a parlay. All right. It's very advantageous for Bo Nix when it comes to passing touchdowns. It's the third most advantageous matchup. Panthers allow 2 passing touchdowns per game. Panthers allow it's not advantageous pretty much anywhere else. Passing completions, not really. Passing yards, it's okay. Chunk plays, I like it there. I think Cortland Sutton's in a good spot. Obviously, Javonte Williams has the best matchup in football this week. It's a great matchup for Cortland Sutton. Receiving touchdowns, the Panthers give up 1.29 receiving touchdowns every week to opposing wide receivers. Not a lot of receptions, not a lot of receiving yards, but usually the touchdown does go to the wide receiver one. I think the only player I like from the Panthers this week is Jatavian Sanders. I'm kind of growing to like him. I really am. And then like Lucas Kroll, 2 receptions doesn't mean he's startable. I don't even think you should waste any waiver wire picks on him or anything like that. But yeah, Jatavian. Oh my God, I just fucking smoked my knee. Dear God, Jesus, take the wheel. All right, I'm all right. All right, let's go to the next game. Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders. It's another ugly game without Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels isn't in, I'm literally sitting Brian Robinson Jr. I'm literally sitting Terry McLaurin. Like it's just tough. But like it's tough because DeAndre Swift will be the only guy who really needs to eat for the entire game, and same with Roschon Johnson. They won't have the Bears won't really have to pass the ball a heck of a lot if Jaden Daniels isn't in there. Jaden Daniels is the only difference maker in this game. If Jaden Daniels plays, everybody on Chicago is startable. I like Terry McLaurin, even though it's a bad matchup. I love Brian Robinson Jr. Even Austin Eckler becomes a smash play, smash start. But if Jaden Daniels doesn't play, like DeAndre Swift, because game script is going to be They're going to run the rock. They're going to pound the rock. They're going to control the rock. They're going to take the ball away from Marcus Mariota, so on and so forth. You're not going to put Caleb Williams at risk. Therefore, the wide receivers are going to be like inept. And so, like, pay attention to Jaden Daniels. Just if Jaden Daniels plays, everybody's startable. All right, Kansas City Chiefs versus Las Vegas Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs is like one of the best defenses against opposing running backs. This is the Zamir White week. I'm kidding. I'm not. I really am not kidding. Just imagine Zamir White is the guy who fucking breaks the curse of this biblical Kansas City defense. Yeah. Very advantageous matchup for Brock Bowers here. It's one of the best matchups in football this week. But it's tough because they really don't have anybody else. They really don't. So unless the run game's, any decent, it's tough. I like Kareem Hunt here. I think Kareem Hunt is a must start this week. I like Brock Bowers. I like Travis Kelce. And obviously, if I like Travis Kelce, I must like Patrick Mahomes. I do think this game is going to be a lot closer than people are. I don't know. The Raiders at home they play this team differently. It's crazy. All right, Who's goes with the Who's conundrum. He says, who should I start at my wide receiver 3? Tank Dell, JSN. Then my third option is either Jennings, McMillan. I need to set a waiver for one of them. Take note, Tank Dell is killing me. Yeah, I mean, like, once again, I like Tank Dell this week. It's a great matchup. It really is a good matchup. So I'm going to ride the great matchup, man. Last week was a weird week. All right, Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers. Start Brock Purdy, start Dak Prescott. Both have a great matchup. It's a good matchup when it comes to receiving yards for both running backs. It's a great matchup for Rico Dowdle when it comes to receptions. Phenomenal matchup for Jordan Mason. I think he's got top 10 upside this week, top 5 borderline. The Cowboys allow 1.33 rushing touchdowns. It's top 3 matchup there, most advantageous. It's also top 10 most advantageous matchup for Rico Dowdle to find himself in the end zone. Could be Zeke, doesn't really matter. I love the rushing yards this week for Jordan Mason. I think he smashes that as well. And once again, 49ers give up the 10th most receptions to opposing running backs, and the 7th most receiving yards. So I do like Rico Dowdle as like a RB3 fringe flex kind of deal. I know I said RB3. And once again, George Kittle, great matchup across the board here. Yeah. So that's the Sunday Night Football game. Monday Night Football, fuck. This is as ugly as it gets. I think Malik Neighbors needs another week to get sorted. I think Najee Harris is startable. But, like, both pass rushes have been absolutely, like, excellent. Both pass rushes have been really, really good. There's no real advantage here other than Najee Harris and Theo Johnson. But, like, fuck Theo Johnson. Honestly, that guy's burnt me. And then, like, the Giants give up a lot of rushing yards. So if Justin Fields was to play, yeah. But, like, it's Russell Wilson, so it's weird. But, yeah, receiving yards, receptions, that's really the only outlier here. There's nothing crazy there. It's fun when I don't have to copy and paste. All right, guys, let's open this up to questions. If you guys are on X, feel free to ask your questions there or come on over to the Big Draft Energy YouTube channel. We got a couple minutes. And then, yeah, we're going to be posting our rankings tomorrow for positionally. If you guys are not following me on X, on Twitter, Fix Your Life. It's Big Drafters HQ on Twitter. I post my advantageous lineup or my advantageous matchups every week. Why do we do this show? To make sense of the advantageous matchups. Just because it's advantageous doesn't mean somebody's going to be able to take advantage of it. If you guys want access to the charts that I'm using here that I make on a weekly basis, all you got to do is pay $1.99 Canadian and become a member here on our YouTube channel. And you'll have access to that monthly. It's a one-time payment monthly. So it's a reoccurring monthly payment to get access to that. And yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for rocking with me. I appreciate you guys coming by and supporting the kid, even on, just like a research day. Means a heck of a lot. Or Dobbs. I do like Dobbs. I think Dobbs is in a good spot this week, but I also like I always go for the ceiling. If you're looking for a safe play, I think Dobbs is the safest play between Jackson Smith and Jigba and all the other names you mentioned. But, I do like Dobbs a heck of a lot in his spot this week against Jacksonville. Do you see Dobbins doing much this week or just the same as last night? I think Dobbins is going to explode this week. I think Dobbins has a great matchup, top 15. Would you start Dowdle over Pollard? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Pollard is the only thing that team has going for them. So good or bad, he's the only thing they have going for them. And it's a tough matchup. It really is. But he's the only thing they have going for him. And he's a very explosive player. So, yeah, Pollard cannot be sat. If you want to trade him, I would recommend it because it really is a tough situation, tough matchup. But, yeah, he's one of those guys where, especially for Rico Dowdle, it's tough to project Rico Dowdle because it could be Zeke. It could even be Lukey, right? Cowboys, I'm like, I hate them. I hate them. And it's not like as a fan, it's not that. It's just like they didn't invest in the offensive line. They let Tyron Smith walk. They let their center walk. They got 2 young rookies. They didn't invest in the running game whatsoever. It's ugly, man. It's ugly. Start 2, Marv, Keenan, Devonta Smith. I'm going to start Devonta Smith, and I'm going to start Javonte. Should I send waivers for Jennings or McMillan this week? I will be honest, I really don't need any receiver help. But to have another receiver in my bench to hold for waivers, I mean, if you don't need it, you don't need it, right? I mean, how significant can we expect Juan Jennings to be, especially if he's coming off of an injury on a weekly basis? Like rest of the season, is he somebody that you can plug and play the rest of the week or the rest of the year? I would rather wait, especially with your fab money. I would wait for the next RB injury because it's going to happen. I mean, we're not even halfway through the season. The next RB injury is going to happen. Appreciate it. I got you, brother. Ben King says Bigs Beer Swift, 100% DeAndre Swift. This is a very, very good matchup for DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift has 2 or 3 weeks left of good matchups, and then it gets really ugly. So I would sell high if you own DeAndre Swift after this week. Yeah, DeAndre Swift is the only surefire starter in that game until we get Jaden Daniels news, because Jaden Daniels is going to be the one who makes or breaks it. I appreciate you guys rocking with me, man. I really did enjoy this. Look up Jerry Jones threatening to fire radio host. He's losing it. Did you see that Jamie Foxx video where Jerry Jones was talking about the size of a player's cock in the Jamie Foxx video at training camp? It's just weird, man. It's just so weird. The NFL's so weird. NFL's super. It's just so weird. Use promo code DISCO when you sign up on Drafters Fantasy. It helps the kid out a heck of a lot. I appreciate you guys for rocking with me. Thank you so much. I mean, if there's any other questions, I'll gladly answer it. If not, no, but thanks for that. Yeah, it's just super bizarre. Super bizarre. Did we find out, Jake, did we find out who Luke Getsy's father was? And did you receive the charts there? Guys, if you guys want access to my charts, just let me know. Seriously, it costs next to nothing. God bless you guys. God love you. Until next time. Peace. And if you're not subscribed to my Mind as a Weapon Fantasy Football, Sleazeball, Fix Your Life, that's my guy. Shout out to NFL DFS Picks. He's a beautiful human being. Great guy. He's not feeling too well. Hope you feel better, brother. Love you. Shout out to Bayou Bengal. Great guy. Congratulations to him for finally getting monetized. Shout out to the sports affiliation, Greg Kellogg, JC Money Design. All you guys are great. Until next time, guys. Peace. Love you.